hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much, Regina, for inviting me to do this training today. I am just going to double check and make sure that I'm live and everything. So I've got my computer over here too, just to check and see if there are any like comments or questions or anything as I go about this, but I will also come back through the end. Okay, good. There we go. Make sure to make sure at the end that I've covered everything. This will just be 30 minutes. So I'll just be going over pricing of your packages and a little bit of closing as well. I don't know if you guys see the stars thing. Like Facebook gave me this like stars ability. I'm not really sure what it means. Let me know if you have it too. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts are. I know Facebook sometimes rolls out different incentives for different people at different times. So a little bit about myself, Missy Reed. I'm a dually licensed therapist and I transitioned into coach and healer. I've been in the, hello, is it Air? Air? Is that how did I pronounce it correctly? Glad you're here. You can put any questions that you have at any time in the comments and I will come back to them as soon as I can. Today we're talking about sales. So Missy Reed here, dually licensed therapist, transitioned to online coach, healer. I started in July of last year. And I've rolled out several different beta programs and helped other people, brand new coaches or coaches who've never really been able to get consistent sales online, begin to call in clients. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background and establish myself as somewhat of an authority here. It's true that once I entered the realm of coaching, I had to do a lot of training on marketing and sales. So don't get down on yourself if, you're new to it, because before I was like, well, I just deliver to people. Like I just help people. And I never really thought of myself as a salesperson or a marketing person. Something that might be really helpful for you to think about, is write down, write down, what do you think of like first when sales comes to mind for you? You can do this now or, a little bit later. You can always come back and watch this video, right? So for me, the first thing I would think of was a sleazy salesperson. I think of a car salesman and they're just trying to like pull one over on you, right? And I was like, that's the last thing I want to do. Like would never want to do something like that. So a lot of sales is mindset. You may have heard this before, any coach worth their salt, and I know like Regina definitely is, would tell you that any strategy will work as long as your mindset is on point with this. So don't you think it'd be difficult for me to sell if I really believed that selling was just sleazy and, it was just for used car salesmen and I didn't want to be a sleazeball? That would be really difficult for me to actually, sell something. So, shifting my mindset around sales and what that actually means has been really important. Because for me, impact has always come over income. But I truly believe that heart-centered people, that spiritual healers and leaders really are being called at this time to bring in more divine wealth. I do think that those of us who, would have called ourselves, bleeding hearts, before, it's really time for us to step up and get more power and more money and see money as a sacred tool to really expand our work as much as possible instead of something that's evil or bad. So, recognizing your mindset around money, those old money stories and beliefs, write down like what your parents or your grandparents, told you about money or what it was like for you growing up, with or without a lot of money. So really understanding your beliefs and where they come from, how true they feel for you today or not can be really super helpful. Like for me, my grandparents grew up during the Depression. So like I grew up hearing about how they didn't have enough food to eat. When my grandmother passed away, we found stashes of cash all over the house. I'm pretty sure that we probably missed some because there were some, behind it, she had like a little, makeup kit or something. And then behind the fabric, was some cash. And then in the freezer, wrapped in aluminum foil, we found cash. So, obviously a lot of that scarcity, mindset was something was embedded not only in our family history, in our oral history, oral traditions and what they were sharing with us, but also that kind of trauma gets locked in our DNA and can actually be passed on through generations. You may or may not have heard this. You know, a lot of people out there are becoming more trauma informed, which I think is really beautiful. And when it comes to money and people's resources, there definitely can be some triggers there, right? Because like when we're talking about money, we're talking about safety for a lot of people, because money equals like a safe place to stay, you know, food, that kind of thing. So, you know, really holding and honoring people where they're at, like whether you're thinking about your own clients, you know, your own future clients, you know, people you know, people in your audience, people you'd like to get on sales calls, or even yourself too, you know, allowing yourself to understand, you know, what your thoughts are about money and sales, what your own money stories are, and any trauma that you've had around money can be really useful and helpful. So I'm in addiction recovery. So for me, even with 12 and a half years clean and sober, I recognized that I was afraid of receiving money because I was afraid I would use drugs, because I was, you know, deeply involved in the 12-step community for a very long time, right? And one of the reasons I moved away from that, and this is just my opinion, my own experience, is I felt like it was a lot of shame-based messaging, which wasn't serving me so much anymore. And, you know, part of that is continuing to identify as an addict or an alcoholic. And I'm like, dude, I haven't drank or used in 12 and a half years. So why do I think that I can't handle money responsibly, right? Why do I think I'm gonna immediately go use drugs? Like, is that really true? No. Okay. So allowing myself to be free, you know, free from my addiction, free from those old money stories that I had, because it used to be, if you were getting out loads of cash to buy something big, if as a drug addict, that, you know, it was drugs. Like if you're spending big loads of money and not even like thinking about it, it was drugs. So for me, I had to let go of that and allow myself to be free to receive. You know, and with trauma informed as well, like if you're afraid to receive, if it doesn't feel safe to receive, then it can be really difficult for yourself to accept sales. So understanding yourself, setting a really good foundation for all of that, can be really, really useful for you as you move forward in your business, right? Sometimes not always the sexiest stuff, but also super, super important. And the thing that could actually be holding you back more than you've recognized before. And that means if you've identified that that's a thing, then you have a really great opportunity to overcome that challenge so that you can get better at selling, so that you can serve your people deeply. So it really gets to be beautiful like that, right? So, you know, so for me, like I shifted my mindset around this by really feeling into and understanding more like about what it meant to actually sell, and this feeling of like, and belief that selling is serving. Like, what does that really mean, right? Like, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like you're just giving me money. And the truth is like when we're in this space and we're offering a service, we're selling a result, right? We're not selling minutes. We're not selling dollars. If you work with clients, you're selling them a result. So shifting around that mindset, because it used to be like, hey, like you buy an hour session with me, you're paying for my time, the insurance companies, you know, for me say that it's worth this much, or, so shifting around the results, because if I really started to think about like the results that my clients were getting, like the deep, I do some healing work, right, with individual clients, and they would tell me, you know, Missy, I've been going to therapists for, you know, my whole life, and within just a few sessions, like, or even just one session, my whole life has changed. You know, I have more motivation. I feel healthier. Like I feel more vibrant. I'm able to do things. I'm like, oh, like, so your whole life is better now after just a few sessions. Like, isn't that worth more than $57 or $73 and stuff like that? And also realizing that like sales isn't about us, it's actually about the client. When someone buys something, they're making an investment, right? If they buy an apple, they're making an investment in their health, right? They're making an investment in ensuring that their body gets calories so that it can continue to survive. If so, understanding that it's not about you is really, really important and very difficult at the same time, because it can feel like rejection when someone's not buying your thing, especially if it's a pretty low ticket item and you know how much it would help them. It can be very difficult to detach from the outcome of the sale. But I think it's also important to recognize that like we have control over our own thoughts, words, actions, behaviors, but we do not have control over what anybody else says or does. And that can be sometimes difficult to understand and to sit with, but it's true. So we can get better so what can we do if people aren't buying our thing? We can get better at articulating, the result and the value that they get. We can show our testimonials, right? So if you've already worked with clients and you've got some great testimonials, or you can really understand and see and pinpoint, and you have, if you also have, some tangible evidence of your work, then that definitely positions you as, more of an expert than maybe someone who's brand new, right? However, it doesn't mean you can't sell if you're not new. If you are new at the thing, just you may want to start at a lower price point until you can get some more sales rolling in, and that your thing works and actually helps people before you're actually bumping up your price. I have noticed that it's just as hard to sell something at $50 as it is to sell, well, I'd say maybe not 50, but $500 versus $5,000. Like, it's just as hard to sell. Like, low ticket and high ticket are just as hard to sell. So you might as well go for the high ticket because it's going to be just as hard for you. But like, you want it just as hard or as easy, right? We get to work on our mindset there, don't we? And I'm talking to myself sometimes too. Like, the process never ends. So, packaging up, like, so if you do one-on-one sessions, right, you want to package those up into a beautiful, package of 3 to 6 sessions, or more, depending on what your client needs. Or if you have a group program, obviously, you want to present that as a package with specific outcomes that you can tie into that particular person's needs, wants, desires. So, listening very actively and very carefully to what, it's I think it's is that right? Just give me a thumbs up. I just saw your comment. So thinking of like, I just lost my train of thought. See, this is what happens. I have ADHD. Like, I am not a neurotypical. Okay. I'm a neurodivergent as well. So you guys can help me stay on track. And that's the beautiful thing, is a lot of people who have ADHD especially are drawn to me because, like, I can tend to go off on some tangents, but like, they keep up, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, I got you. Like, you're good. I'm like, okay, I'm glad. Because I used to feel bad about it. I used to be ashamed, that I would go off track and have trouble like focusing and stuff. But then I realized that, like, I serve people best who actually have ADHD because we get each other, right? And we're able to communicate in a way that makes sense for both of us. So I don't have to be ashamed. I get to be grateful that, I have that experience of having ADHD, because then I'm able to serve people best, right? I'm able to know that about myself and know who I best serve, which is really beautiful. So it may happen, and that's okay. Know that you can show up and take messy action. Taking messy action is better than taking no action every single day, hands down, because I have built my business taking messy action the entire time. I felt uncomfortable many, many days, right? Because we're stretching ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So it's going to feel uncomfortable sometimes, and it's totally okay. Just like keep it moving, keep going. And if you need a break, take one. Like, this week was a little tough for me, and I know it's been tough for a lot of people. You guys are witchy and stuff, so I know you'll get some of the astrological things, which I think is really beautiful. But like, a lot of people have been going through some darkness this week. Okay, so it happens, right? Like, being an entrepreneur and being out there and having your own business and serving people will take you on an emotional roller coaster. So taking good care of yourself, selling yourself on your own program and working your own program as well, is really helpful and really important along the way. Okay. So, all right. So, packaging up something that we are really, I remember now. Okay. So, listening really, really well to what your person is telling you, right? Either like in comments or posts, or if they watch our live videos, or if you get on calls with them. Booking calls tends to be the best way of selling to people. When people can connect with you, see your face, understand what it would be like to work with you, ask you questions, where you can, it's so, just a picture or something is very like two-dimensional, right? But if we can get into at least that 3D place with them, then that maybe they can imagine, skyrocketing into the 4th or 5th or beyond, right? So, that connection is super, super important, and listening to them, because they will give you clues as to what they want. Because say your program offers like 10 different outcomes. So I would write down as many outcomes as you can based off of what you do, and the type of program that you have, or the type of result. Like write down 100 different things, because even if they come to you just for, say, like let's just say a money problem. Well, if they fix their money problems, they probably feel healthier, right? Because like they wouldn't be so stressed, and they'd probably be able to eat better, maybe get some better sleep. Probably the relationships would get better. So like when you get on a call with someone and they're like, yeah, well, my husband's really on my back about money, so you could say something like to speak to that. So not only do they feel heard, but then they know that, hey, like you actually can help me with this thing, and it's the truth, like, right? Like we're not lying. Like it is true that we could actually help with this thing. Cool. I did take a couple of notes. Okay, so perceived value as well. So this is a great example. So let's just say I'm looking at buying something. Okay, I'm looking at buying something, and there are different versions of this thing. So one cost me $500 and one cost me $5K. Well, $500 is a lot safer for me to spend, right? But we're talking about a car. So what do I expect to get from a car that I only pay $500 for? It might get me like from A to B for a short period of time, and then it's gonna die, right? And then I'm gonna be left with no car yet again. Whereas, if I pay 5K for a car, it's much more likely to be able to be something that I can rely on for a little bit longer than something that's, $500. So what I see with a lot of people who are like psychics, or, who are trying to move from, selling just like one-on-one little sessions, is you've gone from very low ticket and you're trying, to get to higher ticket, or you've even done some free stuff. So number one, you've might have actually like conditioned your audience to think that you're very low ticket, or you do free stuff. So like it's going to be hard to then convince them to pay you if you've been doing so much for so free or so little. So building up your audience is really important. And again, iterating that value, because yeah, you might think, oh well, $500 is gonna be easier to sell, but it might not be, because where your clients are, like, I'd much rather buy a $5,000 car than a $500 car. Like a $500 car is a waste of my money. Like if I'm looking to get, just say I'm looking to get a psychic reading, I'm much more likely to pay $111 than $11. Why? Because someone who's only charging $11 for a full hour of their time for me to do a reading with them, I'm going to think they're really new or not very good at what they're doing, or like a quack or something. If someone's charging $100, I'm going to take them more seriously. Okay, so this is definitely something to take into consideration. Once you are consistently selling at a certain price and it's working, like you have confirmation that your message is working, I would highly suggest that you begin to raise your price. You also want to take into consideration your audience. So depending on your offer, depending on the result that you provide people, you want to take into consideration where those people are in their journey. I mean, if it's someone who's like a high school student or something, then they're going to have very low funds, or maybe not. Maybe their parents, are in charge. So you're going to have to think about, okay, well, how can I, talk to this teen in a way to where, they're going to kind of sell me to their parents, so then I can have a conversation with the parent about something I can offer to the teen. So, getting really clear about that client journey is going to be really helpful to you, so that you can understand how to price, how to sell, like, etc. Also, there is something when we move into talking about closing a little bit. So closing can actually happen before the exchange of finances actually takes place. So this is what we mean by pre-closing. So you can begin to pre-close people by helping to overcome objections before they are even, on a call with you. And how you can do that is just like doing live videos or sharing or posting content that already like helps to overcome their objection. So like with the money thing that I just shared with you guys, like, a lot of people get stuff about money, but like that actually, that example shows you like, oh, I see what you're doing there, right? Like, yeah, I'd much rather spend $500, but not if it was something that, is of tremendous value that's going to last me longer. But it's usually never about actually time or money, because it's usually something deeper than that. So just continuing to ask questions is like really, really helpful. And sometimes like I do just like to get on calls. I like to get on calls with people, and ask them questions, because it gives me information about my audience, like what they need, like what they're looking for, like how I can help them. Not and not even if they're just like a client yet, like just to help them. But there have been times where like there have been a lot of new people in my group. I've never really talked to them before. So I've been like, hey, would you be able to have a conversation? I've got some extra room, in my calendar this week. And I've gotten to conversations that's given me great ideas for content for my group. And then I've gotten clients from that pretty quickly and directly. So that's a great way. It's just connecting and really understanding your audience. And the more you have conversations like that, the more you're getting on sales calls, even if they don't go your way, even if, if they don't close, you still get great information about what objections they do have so that you can then, create content to help overcome those things before people get on a call with you. Or you can say, well, maybe the people that are in my audience aren't really my ideal client because, I'm getting all these objections that like they really just like can't afford my thing, don't want my thing. So then you get to brainstorm, okay, how can I attract new and different people into my world who really want my offer? Because the truth is like there are people out there who like really fucking want what you do. Like people are buying high ticket every single day. People are buying packages, people are buying sessions every single day, all the time. So it's not rare or weird or hard. It's just something that we get to get better at doing so that we can call in our particular people. Because don't you think that you could help at least one person today more than maybe someone else could, just based off of your own unique experience? And that's the really beautiful thing, is understanding your position in the market. If you're not so sure yet too, you can look at like your past client experiences, ones that you've really enjoyed working with and what kind of results they've gotten. Or you can even get on a call with them and be like, hey, do you mind? Like, I'm just doing some research. I want to help more people. Do you mind answering some questions for me so I can really understand like what you got out of the program, so I can, let other people know as well what's available. And you can ask for referrals as well. You can even like, shoot some cash referrals to people if that's something that you want to do. Like, hey, if you send me a client, or refer someone to me and they end up booking with me, I'll send you $57. Or, you can set your price, but that's a good way too, because referrals and word of mouth are, sell really, really great, are really helpful. So sales is a journey. So, being clear about where your client is along that journey, and then addressing different objections that they would have along the way as they get closer and closer to actually booking a call with you and purchasing from you. But I want you to remember as well, the purchase is not about you. The purchase isn't, oh, you're buying my thing, look at me, I'm amazing. So like, make sure you already feel great about who you are and what you're doing first, so that when you do get rejection, because you will, because even the best closers are closing like at 1 or 3% or something like really low. So you do have to have kind of a thicker skin, when it comes to this sometimes, which can be hard, I know, for me and heart-centered folks that I know. So, just knowing that you already are so deeply held and considered to be such a sacred, beautiful, being by the universe, and then knowing that the no is about that person, is just about their, whatever's going on with them. And like sometimes the best you can do to overcome all those objections, it just still might not be the thing that they want right now. And that's okay. You got to get back up and go out there and keep doing the thing and learning and understanding more and more. So I would highly recommend booking calls to close people the fastest. People do close in DMs. There's our DMs or Messenger. There are other ways of closing. However, statistics say, people say, booking calls is the best way. And usually people that buy from me book calls with me. It's very rare that I think I've only one person ever has bought, has invested in something that I've offered that, didn't want. Well, actually, I made them get on a phone call. We didn't do a face-to-face call. No, there've been a couple people, but we've already like spoken before. Like we'd already had interaction face-to-face or, over video before. So they were already very familiar and felt comfortable with me. So, and sometimes, like I said, like I don't even, like I'll just have a conversation with someone, just want to get to know them, just ask them some more questions about how I can serve them deeply in my free Facebook group. And, then they end up buying later from me. Like, hey, yeah, I think I want to buy your thing. And then I'll send them a link. When I am on a sales call, it's important to show that you are listening deeply and then tying back in the specific things that they've brought up to you. as something that you will address in your program can be really helpful. So I have like a whole document that speaks to like the deliverables of my program, which includes, you know, everything you get inside the program, right? Like me actually showing up and, you know, the live videos and group coaching and workbooks and suggestions, the deliverables. And I have like a whole, you know, imagine what it'll be like for you, which is my vision for them after, you know, they complete the program. And then, you know, I really talk to the results, you know, that I know that they want as well, that they can directly get from my program. So I have kind of all of that on a document that I'm quite familiar with. Actually, many times too, I will send it to them over a sales call, or I'll have it up, you know, looking at it as well. So like I remember, you know, and I can direct back to specific pieces if need be over the call. So the good thing to remember is people buy from not from logic, they buy from emotion. So, you know, if you could connect with them deeply and emotionally and understand what's going on with them and validate those feelings that are coming up for them and help them, you know, hold space for them, help them to maybe even overcome those emotions or show them how your program can, then that will be really helpful for you as well. So, you know, leaning forward when you're really paying attention, you know, making really great eye contact, you know, smiling can be really helpful as well. But then when it comes to the sale, it's leaning back. So it really shows like I'm not attached to the sale, you know, and at the end, after you've gone through, you know, you've spoken, there's a journey you go through, you know, before they even get on the sales call. And once they get on the sales call, you know, you connect with them on a personal level first, right? And then you establish yourself as the, you know, authority or the leader here, and you know, you say a little bit about what the call, you're on this call, you'll help them overcome their objections, you'll share the result, you'll put in a bonus maybe there, and you'll drop the price, and then you lean back and say nothing. And sometimes the silence might be a little long, and eventually they will respond in some way. They'll either say, all right, yeah, this sounds like something I'm into, or I don't really know. And then here's the deal. Their objection that they give you is an opportunity for you. So you get to be grateful that someone is telling you what's making them feel uncomfortable, right? About investing in something for themselves that would be useful to them. So that's a really great opportunity and something you get to be grateful for. Like, I'm honored when people share vulnerably and honestly something with me that like can be a little, you know, hard to say out loud, right? So I'm grateful and I'm honored when people share their objections with me, because it gives me information about them, you know, about how I can help them, about others like them and how I can help them. And it gives me an opportunity. So looking at it as an opportunity, like, oh my gosh, like how grateful am I that this person's on a call with me and that they're sharing their concerns and their worries and their fears. This gives me great market research, and it gives me a great opportunity to help them overcome these things for themselves so that they can feel better, so that they can get X, Y, or Z result, which can feel really beautiful. And sometimes they're not going to do the thing, right? Like, you can say, you know, well, would you like to put in a deposit of X, Y, or Z? You can do a down sell if they're really like, dude, I have like $20 in my account, then that might not be the time or place. And that's totally okay. You can say, all right, well, how about I follow up with you in 48 hours? We'll get on another call, and I can, you know, continue to show you how I could deeply support you. And they may say no, and that's okay. And they may say yes, and then you get to prepare and get on the call once again. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm going to go ahead and double see if there's any like questions or comments that you have. We have just a couple more minutes, so please let me know. Otherwise, I just got a little message on my phone. I get these affirmations that says, every day is a gift. Beautiful. It has been such a gift for me to be here, and I feel very grateful. Like I told you, like sales wasn't my thing, right? And I feel very grateful that today, you know, I get to be on here and I, you know, talked about selling stuff for 30 minutes, which feels like such a gift and a pleasure. You know, I do have a free group too. I would love for you guys to join it. I'll put the link below. And if you're watching the replay, I will also get a notification if you have, any further questions or comments or anything, and I'll be happy to, reply to those as long as that's okay with Regina, or she might want to do that herself. Otherwise, I hope you have a beautiful evening. I'm not seeing any comments or questions come through. So I really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate, again, the invitation. I hope you got something out of this and that it's helpful for you. And I'll drop my link so you can, join my group or follow my professional page, if you would like. And feel free to send me a friend request as well. I'm happy to connect with any of you and answer any of your questions. And keep up the good work. I know that if you're here and you're working with Regina, that you probably have a really beautiful soul, because she does too. So take care. Thank you again for having me. Have a beautiful night. Bye.